everybody. Today's lab, we're going to be doing antigen typing. So I have everything set up for the lab. Antigen typing is testing RBCs to see what antigens are present and which ones are absent. So we can either do this testing on a patient sample, which I have here, or we can do this on units to transfuse, and I have 4 units here. With every batch of antigen typing we do controls with it. So I have a positive and I have a negative control. And to determine which cells we use for controls, for the positive we do a heterozygous cell, and then for the negative just any negative cell. So I'm going to be antigen typing for big E. So this panel that I have here, I'm going to use, where's it at? Cell 5 for my heterozygous positive, and then I'm just going to use cell 4 for my negative. So first I need to make my suspension. So I'm going to wash my red cells once, just with saline. Oh, and I wanted to show you guys this too. So units, since we really haven't done much with units, when we test units, they come with these segments on them. So this is just an expired red cell unit, but we would take one of these segments from the unit itself and test that. So that's where all these came from. So this segment, we have a piercer, which I don't know if I can get this in here. And I just need a little bit of red cells in my tube. And that's how that works. So I'll fill that up too. Okay, so I'm just going to wash these for 1 minute. Okay, and while that's going, antigen typing, each procedure is different dependent on the manufacturer and dependent on the antigen that you're typing for. So this antigen that we're typing for, we just need 1 drop of antisera in our tubes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to need 1 drop of the corresponding red cells. So, and again, the antisera is this bottle here. And I'm following the manufacturer circular that looks like this. There's a couple different methods on these instructions. So there's a slide method, but we're going to be following the tube method. Okay. So just waiting on these cells to wash. And again, so we're typing the units for big E. We're going to assume that my patient here has an anti-big E. So we're typing the patient red cells to confirm that they do not have the antigen, so that there is that possibility they've formed the antibody, which kind of proves that the antibody is there. And then we're typing the units so that we can use those for transfusion. Okay, so I already have my tubes labeled. I just want to make sure I have them in the right order. So I'm just going to resuspend those red cells. Okay. So I'm going to take 1 drop of all these suspensions to the corresponding tube that I already have my antisera in. So if you just think of the antisera as antibody, And if the antigen is present on the red cells, it's going to bind and we'll see agglutination. So then we'll know that that antigen is present. And we want to use units that are antigen negative for that big E that this patient has. We don't want to transfuse a unit that has the antigen the person has an antibody for. And then my positive and negative control. So again, I'm using cell 5, which is heterozygously positive. We use a heterozygous cell because we want to make sure we're detecting the weakest expression of antigen on the red cell. And then cell 4 for my negative. So we want to make sure that we're not missing that heterozygous weak expression. So for big E, I'm just going to spin these and do an immediate spin read. So I'm going to spin them for 15 seconds. Then I'm going to record my reactions. I just have what we call a downtime form, just to record those reactions as I read them. So I'm going to record these in our immediate spin column. Okay, so the first one is my patient. So if the big E antibody is present, this patient should be negative for that antigen, which they are. So that's negative. These are our first two units, which are also negative for big E. These are our next two units, which these have the big E antigen. So we would not want to use these units to transfuse. Okay, and then my positive and negative control, which is included with each batch of testing. And that's a 3+ probably. And my negative control. So those worked. So our testing is valid. So for my negative reactions with this antigen that we're testing for, we incubate our negatives for 15 minutes at room temp just to make sure that they are negative. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will be back. Okay, so we've incubated our negative tubes for 15 minutes at room temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and actually this can be extended up to 30 minutes, but just for time savings, I just did the 15. So I'm going to go ahead and mix these a little bit and then spin those for 15 seconds. And really, we would want to probably incubate those for the upper limit of the time range that's provided in the procedure, because that enhances the antigen expression, so we're more likely to see the weak expression of the antigen if we incubate for the maximum amount of time. So we would want to incubate for a half hour here. Okay, so here's our first two units, which are still negative. Actually, this was the patient, and then 1 unit. And then here's the other unit and my negative control. Which are still negative. Okay, so these 2 units we would then select for the patient and do a cross match on those just to make sure that they are compatible, which most likely they will be because they lack that antigen the patient has an antibody for. So I'm just recording all my stuff on this so I don't have to incubate for 15 minutes for my positives. Okay, and my controls worked, so that is valid antigen testing. And again, every antigen has specific instructions. So some are like this one where it's just an immediate spin read. Some have to be incubated at 37 degrees and then IgG is added. Some are just incubated at 37 degrees with no addition of IgG. So we just have to pay attention to the procedure for the specific antigen we're looking for. So review the outline that I've uploaded on Blackboard and also make sure you're doing the dry lab. So next time we'll be doing cross matches. So see you guys then.